Peace, family, and welcome to another episode of Underground Railroad Radio. I'm your host, Brother Rich. I'm back with none other than the Professor Griff and Sister Zaza Ali. What's happening, y'all?
Peace. What's good, man? Peace.
Good to have y'all back on the show. We got a hot topic tonight, y'all. We're going to be talking about, Sister Zaza, Professor Griff, has spent pretty much the whole year on my show building up the self-esteem, building up the psyche of blacks, not just in America, but globally. So I thought it was important with Griff. I call Zaza. I thought it was important that we discuss these recent comments that Black America has been talking about on social media. Comments made by rapper Lil Boosie and famous child actress Raven-Symone. I want to start out with Lil Boosie, y'all. Now, the name itself, Lil Boosie. or Badass Boosie. That's what they call him. They call him Badass Boosie. Now, Lil Boosie, I wasn't really up on his music. A friend of mine came home from jail. This was, last year. A friend of mine came home from jail, and that's all he was talking about. And he was saying, dudes locked up, man. We mess with Lil Boosie, man. He was like, yo, the streets mess with Lil Boosie. I started hearing it more and more, like, yo, the streets mess with Lil Boosie. So then I heard when the brother came home from the penitentiary, how the streets was going crazy, like Lil Boo, like he was some big, he got a lot of street credibility. So when I heard the brother say what the brother said, man, I was like, oh, man, I don't want to hear that from the brother. So I want to get y'all, first, before we get into it, let me read the quote exactly. I just feel like African American is the worst race in the world because, first of all, we kill each other. We kill each other. People always talk all this racist stuff, but the white man ain't waiting in the bushes with a chopper, which is a gun. The white man ain't trying to take the rims off your car. We doing this to each other. So how can you say, fuck the white man? He ain't doing nothing but, when you get in trouble doing his job, he ain't doing nothing wrong. The reporter asked Boosie if he thinks the system has been put in place for African Americans to destroy each other. Boosie said, I really do feel like they bought drugs in the country and gave it to the big dogs in the black neighborhood because they go and put in their culture and we don't smoke up all the drugs, he replied. You don't see Italians selling keys or dime rocks on their block so people get strung out. But we got a picture of Scarface, John Gotti, and we got all these pictures. But they know we're going to kill our race. Now, Lil Boosie, this dude with the street credibility, dude's coming home from jail, probably makes the Willie Lynch statement of the year. My question is, Griff, is this a matter of frustration, Zaza? Is this a matter of just being flat out frustrated, or is this just some cool shit that the brother said? The brother, I take into account what the brother has seen in the streets. Obviously, he's been in a street lifestyle. Does the brother get a pass for saying this, or is this a case of Black America waving the flag at white supremacy?
Well, no, he absolutely does not get a pass. He gets a microscope, because anytime you have that type of influence and the ability to spark this type of conversation, and people are obviously listening to you, that means that when you put that type of message and energy out into the universe and you have everybody in the world looking at you as well as looking at our people, that means that we're going to have to deal with you. So that's what we're going to do today. It's obviously some coon shit, like you said, but it's also, niggas who don't understand history, who, don't really have that big of an impact when they're standing on the block holding a piece and got a dub sack in their pocket and selling drugs. They're oblivious then. But when you put a microphone in their hand and ask them a question about anything outside of the small world that they know and understand, that's when it becomes a problem. I find it interesting that he said that we kill each other. You don't see white men waiting in the bushes with a chopper. Well, yeah, that's because he created the chopper. and then he put it in your hands and he let you do it yourself. White men won't steal your car. No, but they steal nations. They steal countries. They steal natural resources. So this is, we always talk about checkers versus chess. He has a checkers mind. He's a peon. We're talking about chess moves that are being made in the field and in the world. And it's ironic that he referenced Scarface and John Gotti. This is a real issue that we have as a people because we look up to these savages like Scarface and John Gotti and the Mafia, all of these savages who killed and murdered and maimed probably hundreds of thousands of people. And we look up to them because they have premises, they have laws, like, not selling drugs to your own people. You take care of your wife at home, but you can have 50 mistresses as long as, your family doesn't find out about it. We look up to these people like they're gods, but they're really savages. So him even mentioning them and then putting his own people down at the same time, this brother is really confused and has no idea about history and the hundreds of millions of our people around the world that white people have killed and then turned around and put guns in our hands for us to kill each other. So he really needs to kind of look at what's happening right now and the millions of people that white people are killing right now as we're doing this interview before he talks about African Americans. First of all, what is an African American?
Right.
We don't claim America. America doesn't claim us. America didn't love you when you was locked down. America didn't love you when you probably, put a bullet in somebody or somebody almost put a bullet in you. There's no love for you in America. So, that's the first thing. Who identifies with that term, African American? I don't. We take ownership of Africa, but you can keep the American. So that's what I'm going to start with, but to the young brothers and sisters who are going to listen to this, who are listening to the Raven-Symones and the Lil Boosie, first of all, the fact that you even put little in the front of your name lets us know that we're dealing with a boy, not an actual man. You're going to be little forever. You have a little mindset. We're going to try to resurrect that during the process of this interview, but just you naming yourself with that, Lil Wayne, Lil Boosie, all these little dudes, okay, be little, but stay off the field when the real conversations have to be had. We want to send a different type of message to the young brothers and sisters who are listening to this. We don't want them. You don't want us. We don't want you. You can stay on, wherever you're trying to be. But we're going to resurrect the minds of the young people who are listening to this to stay away from these clowns.
That's interesting, Brother Rich. There's so much in what you asked and what you laid out that it's so much to speak to. I think Zaza hit all of those particular points, but just to reiterate what she said, Frantz Fanon said, each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. In ancient Kemet, it talked about knowing, man, know thyself, because to know self is to know God. Right. Neither of these two particular quotes, Lil Boosie or any of the little ones, are qualified to fulfill. Not to say that they can't. Elijah Muhammad said that if you want to do better, you have to know better in order to do better. If Lil Boosie would pick up the phone and call me, 678-557-2919, I would love to have a conversation with the brother because I see potential there. He mapped out a way to reach brothers in prison, so he must be doing something. Right. The whole idea, though, of his statements are so damaging to young people that are trying to get a foothold on dealing with their peers and dealing with what's going on in America, being faced with the imagery of brothers being choked to death and shot down with their hands up is very critical. So to say that African American is the worst race, first of all, Zaza was 1,000% correct. African American is not a race. That's the first thing we need to correct. And when you say the worst race, I thought he said the first race. I was about to say, he's on it. Black people are the first people. We are the original people. To say we're the worst, what lens are you viewing this thing through? You can never, even in the worst that we are today, Brother Rich, you can't even put that next to what these demons and devils have done. You can't take the worst of us times 100 and compare it to what these demons and devils have done. And he said the white race ain't doing all of this stuff in the hood, killing people and waiting in bushes and all. Zaza, once again, was 1,000% correct. Not only did they make the gun, not only did they knock the Chinese aside the head and steal the gunpowder to make the gun, they actually have used the gun. Not only have they not steal the technology from our ancient brothers and sisters who came up with the particular technology according to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Well, I'm talking about nuclear weaponry. I'm talking about atomic bomb. America has not only developed it, but America's probably the only country that fucking used it.
Yep.
So when we talk about some of the statements that he's made, he had to get this kind of thinking from some place. But deeper than that, Brother Rich, who the fuck is listening to this shit?
Right.
Use my language, but who's listening to this stuff? So we have to understand basic things. Now, Brother Rich, there was something that you said that I tried to write down that I kind of missed. He talked about bringing drugs in the country.
Yeah, in the community. Yeah.
Lil Boosie, listen, bro, you need to study chemical and biological warfare.
Right.
The thralls of something right now that's affecting black people. We're talking about ethnic weapons. We talk about weapons that's specifically designed to kill black people. So, brother, when you talk about bringing drugs in the country, that's the least of what we got to worry about. Not only has he made AIDS in a laboratory in Fort Detrick, Maryland, and AIDS is Africans in deep shit, or America's doing the shit, through the World Health Organization, through the vaccine of smallpox vaccination program in Africa, dropped AIDS off like it was a fucking UPS package and infected the entire continent of Africa. He's doing the same thing here, Lil Boosie. So we need to do a little bit of studying before we make these kind of comments. So we talk about the worst race. Do we have to go through the history of the white race to show Lil Boosie that, no, we're not the worst race? And Zaza was correct once again. Lil Boosie is standing on his little corner in Louisiana somewhere, only looking about a mile down each direction, and that's all he sees and knows. There's a big, gigantic world out here, Lil Boosie, a world that you know absolutely nothing about. And I feel sorry for the brother that brought that out of prison, Brother Rich.
And can I just add to that real quick? You know, I think he would do well by reading Dark Alliance, the book that was written by Gary Webb, how he talked about how they intentionally bought cocaine and crack cocaine into black communities, and the CIA was working directly with different drug cartels to bring drugs directly into the black community, targeting the black community. And the goal, as taught by William Cooper in Behold the Pale Horse, was to kill off 2 to 3 generations of black males. So all these crack babies and all these brothers who have done extensive amounts of time and who died in the streets over turf wars and gang wars and drug wars, we can directly connect that, the actual factual history as taught to us by Rick Ross, the real Rick Ross, not the fat floppy one, as taught to us by Rick Ross, what actually happened in our communities and who he was working for. Checkers versus chess.
Right. So, Brother Rich, just to sum this first question up, when you're talking about keeping it a buck, keeping it real, keeping it 100, it depends on what lens you're viewing this thing through. You understand what I'm saying? When you talk about these brothers from the street, obvious, but what street, Rich? You understand what I'm saying? So it's different dynamics. Last but not least, this is high tech Willie Lynch-ism.
Right.
I mean, we seen Willie Lynch walk right off the page, man. The only one you can condemn after crackers and did all this stuff to us is we the worst race. That's what you think about yourself.
Right.
I bet, man, self-hatred is in full effect, man.
Yeah.
You know, the more, you know, I talk to people and, you know, I see the disconnect from, you know, some of the community from what some of the things, the sentiments we express on the show. You know, Zaza just mentioned playing chess, not checkers, and looking at the bigger picture. And some of Black America, including Boosie, obviously from the statements that I talked to, and you know, I'm going to mention this. I want to ask you this question, then we're going to move on to Raven. But some of the disconnect comes from they feel as though, regardless of the deep-rooted history the U.S. government against the black community, they still feel as though we had a choice whether or not to pick up those guns, still had a choice whether or not to use those drugs, still had a choice, whatever the welfare system was doing, whether to raise for the black men, our children, and not walk out of the home. So they feel as though, we're running away from responsibility, even though it seems as though they know what you're saying is correct, but they're saying even though that is correct, they're looking at right what's in front of them. It's sort of like say what you're out there and you're dating and you find somebody, you think that person is a good person, then you come to find out the person is abusive. You might just leave them and say, man, fuck it, I don't have time for this abusive shit. Time is too important right now. I'm out. You're not going to research their history and go to their childhood and say, oh, well, maybe something happened to you as a child. Maybe we could work through this. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong or right with doing it. That's a personal choice. But a person feels like, I don't have time to research and do all that. All I know is that you're doing this to me right now. So people like Boosie and other people feel as though all I know is that this brother sold my mother that bag of crack. I don't care who bought it in the community. My eyes, my senses told me this brother sold it to my family member, and this brother had the God-given choice whether or not to sell this, regardless if Jesus came to the neighborhood and bought it in here. So my question to you guys is, do you feel as though we are, when we talk about, the bigger picture, and do you feel as though we're taking away, we're not assuming responsibility for, what we're doing?
Well, no, because we're realists. So me growing up in Oakland, California, which was heavily hit and a direct target of crack cocaine by the United States government, just because I know and understand that the United States government intentionally put crack cocaine in my community doesn't mean that when the crackhead walks by my house or breaks into my car that I'm not going to deal with the one who actually harmed me or hurt me. No, that's not what we're talking about. But we have the responsibility of fixing the issues that we're facing in our communities and trying to go in and help and save the young brothers and sisters that are standing on the block with crack cocaine in their pockets or that are killing each other behind drugs. They don't understand the war that we are facing. See, we can clean up. I'm sitting in East Oakland right now in my car. We can clean up these neighborhoods. We can take, these 3 or 4 or 5 drug dealers that are standing within a 5-mile vicinity. We can get them and put them in jail and clean them up. But 2 days, 1 week later, there's going to be somebody else that's replacing them on the corner. So we're either going to go to the root of the problem and figure out how did we get here in order to get from here, or we're going to keep putting Band-Aids on a gunshot wound.
Okay.
There are studies that have been done where a lost child somewhere was raised amongst wolves or raised amongst animals in far-off countries and far-off lands. I remember 2 in particular. One young boy at a young age somehow got lost from his family and ended up being raised by wolves. And he survived, and they took him in, and he developed the characteristics, started to walk, started to eat, started to behave just like the wolves did. He did not know anything of humanity. He only knew the environment. We are products of our environment. We have been raised and reared amongst savages, not for 10 years, not for 20 years, not for 40 years, but for 400-plus years we have been raised amongst savages. So we have turned into savages. Now, unless Frances Cress Welsing in her book said it took 20 generations or 400 years for the black man to become effeminized or gay or bisexual. 20 generations. If we don't go back to what we were prior to those 20 generations, then deal with those 20 generations in order to figure out how our brothers got to the situation they're in now, we're never going to be able to correct it. That's what people need to understand. We keep standing back and scratching our head. We can't figure out what the problem is because we're not going to the root. Racism, white supremacy is the fat white elephant, as Griff always says, standing in the room. Until we deal with it, we're going to put a bunch of brothers in jail. We can kill off some molesters, some rapists. We can deal with these individual issues case by case, but we're never going to heal collectively as a people.
Brother Rich, I could deal with the effect and go on and make outlandish statements, thinking that I'm saying something intelligent. If I never deal with the cause of the effect, I will let my enemy, I'll let the perpetrator, I'll let that particular individual go to do this to not only black people but other people. We have, like Zaza said, we have to get to the root of these particular issues in order to repair them. Just as a side note for your first question, have Boosie go back to some basic European history and study World War I and World War II.
Right.
These are world wars. World wars now. We ain't talking about a little scuffle up on the block. These are world wars that involve different nations of people. Hundreds of thousands of people died. Mm-hmm. So we got to understand and put things in its proper perspective, Brother Rich. But I think Zaza answered that particular thing in the way it needed to be answered. Just to add on to that, though, Lil Boosie, I want to ask him, have you ever read of all of the accomplishments of black people? I mean,
right.
When we talk about I got a book, a little elementary school book on the first black to do this, the first Negro to do that, and the first one, J.A. Rogers, and a few other books and authors that I have. Have you ever read this stuff? We're the first to do every damn thing. How are we the worst race? I don't get it, Brother Rich.
And then the ability to endure in the face of the obstacles that we have faced, and to still be so prevalent in pop culture and just around the world. It's like, I always say, and Griff says this too, just in a different way, you know, what would we be right now if they wouldn't stop intervening in our affairs?
Right.
Where would Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street be right now if they hadn't bombed it and destroyed those communities? You know, all these different examples, and we can go through the history, but we don't need to. Where would we be if they hadn't actually been intervening in our affairs? Where would Africa be if they hadn't come and taken hundreds of millions of the best and brightest that we had to offer, kings and queens and architects and masons and builders and contractors? Where would our land masses be if they just left us alone all around the world? Europe is constantly intervening in our affairs.
And then not only that, Brother Rich, how about the whole idea of them saying that this Ebola thing is running wild and they're trying to protect America, but now in five different cities at the major airports, they have these Ebola detection devices. How the fuck did y'all develop that shit that quick?
Right.
Where did they get these machines from that fast, Brother Rich? You see what I'm saying, man? Well, check this out, Brother Rich. Deeper than that, I was studying today, and a brother in Africa came up with how to cure Ebola. Guess where he is, Brother Rich?
Where?
Dead.
Wow.
I'm going to get you his name, Brother Rich. I'm going to text it to you. This is critical, man.
Wow. I want to touch on some more comments that was made that had Black America talking, or whatever that means. From Raven-Symoné. The majority of us know her from The Cosby Show. Young sister, I think she's still in her late 20s, 30 or 28, something like that. She's recently on the Oprah show, on Oprah's network. And they were talking about, I guess, you know, she got offended by labels. So, you know, constantly being labeled. So Raven went on to say, I don't want to be labeled gay. I want to be labeled a human who loves humans. I'm tired of being labeled. I'm an American. I'm not an African American. I'm an American. Oprah said, what did you say? She says, I don't know where my roots go to. I don't know how far back they go. I don't know what country in Africa I'm from, but I do know my roots are in Louisiana. I'm an American, and that's a colorless person. I have a darker skin. I have a nice, interesting gray to hair. I connect with Caucasian. I connect with Asian. I connect with Black. I connect with Indian. I connect with each culture. Professor Griff, Sister Zaza. One of the things that kind of, it caught everybody's attention was immediately after she said she doesn't want to be labeled, she immediately gave herself a label. She said, I don't want to be labeled. I'm not African American. I'm an American, which is an obvious label. So that was kind of weird in itself. So y'all could touch on that. But the first thing that came to my mind is that I want to know what's wrong with this concept, if there is something wrong. But what's wrong with this concept of a colorless America? If a person is a brother or sister says, you know what, I don't want to be labeled a color. I just want to look at a person for the good that's in their heart, because it sounds like an innocent statement. What is wrong with a person of our hue making that kind of statement? Because, it sounds like they just want to help humanity. I don't want to belong to a certain group. I want to help humanity. Is there something wrong with this concept of a colorless America?
Wow. Brother Rich, wow. I think we have to speak to the idea that Dr. Frances Cress Welsing laid it out in her definition of racism, white supremacy. What is so wrong, Brother Rich, with the color that we are, to the point where we would go so far as to want to be colorless? No other people on the planet say that, but black people in America. What is wrong with the idea? And you were absolutely correct. When I was watching that, Oprah was so bothered and so unnerved by fidget. She was fidgeting the whole time.
You're right.
She was trying to signal, oh, girl, look, you might want to clean that up. To say that you're not African-American, you just want to be American, first of all, Brother Rich, we need to look at that concept. You're talking about a bunch of fucking thieves and criminals
exactly
that's in prison to come establish America, killing off our brothers and sisters, the Native Americans.
Exactly.
Millions and millions of them to establish this thing called America. Go get your yellow behind and drag your ass all the way through the seas, bring you over here, dehumanize you, take your name, language, culture, God, religion, trick you into being something else. You 400 years up from slavery. And the only thing you want to be is colorless and gay? As American? Oh, you got some sick-ass issues that you need to deal with. You are totally confused. And you are purely speaking for your gay self. Because the hundreds of millions of black people in America have no other choice but to wake up every day, Brother Rich, and deal with who and what we are. Because Dr. Frances Cress Welsing in her work teaches us that regardless of what you call yourself, white people will always look at you as subhuman and look at you as black. The African proverb says, it's not what you call, it's what you respond to. We have to understand this particular dynamic and deal with it as just the whole idea of humans just loving humans. Stop for a minute, Brother Rich, and excuse me for yelling. Who the fuck said these crackers are human? The only one thing that they've done on a humane plane, Brother Rich, as we speak right now, they're developing chemical and biological weaponry that's specific to black people. That's not human.
Right.
That's not human. Saving 2 white people that got infected by the Ebola virus and letting the brother die, that's not human. Feeding animals, dogs at the dinner table, and letting black people starve, that's not human, Brother Rich. So the whole idea of humans loving humans, first of all, we have to define the human, Brother Rich, and we have to define and connect with the human inside of these people. Then the whole idea of connecting with somebody. I connected with a couple of people today, Brother Rich, in traffic. I shot their ass a bird when they cut me off. Is that kind of connection she's talking about? What kind of connection is she talking about, Brother Rich? The fact that racism, white supremacy didn't find Raven-Symone's blackness to be beautiful and didn't celebrate it, so they fed her a white diet from the time that she was 4 and 5 years old. Now she's grown, and the only thing you can choose is a woman and not to be black. I know I'm ranting right now, but this is very real, and this is very serious thing that she said. The whole idea of being a colorless person. You're not going to walk through America and be invisible. They will see your blackness.
Right.
Plain and simple, Raven-Symoné. Plain and simple.
And, you know, it's funny, she says she connects with every culture, but the question is, does every culture connect with you? You reference and understand, you know, what the Indian culture is, what the Native American culture is, what the Asian culture is. What is your culture?
Right.
What do people identify with when they see Raven-Symoné? She's identified other cultures, but you think they're going to respect you, and you don't even identify with a culture? You don't even have something that you gravitate towards that you can call your own? You think you're colorless? You think that you don't have to be labeled? This whole concept, this gray area, this trying to be neutral about everything, this comes from your self-accusing spirit, knowing you know internally that there's rules and regulations to this life. Everybody is in submission, whether we want to be in submission or not, to the laws of the universe. When you wake up and put your feet on the ground every morning, when you walk outside of your house, we're all in submission to the laws of the universe, whether we want to or not. But this is this concept. I'm a woman, but I like women, so I don't want to be identified as a woman. I don't want to be identified as gay, or I don't want to be identified as a heterosexual or any of these terms, because I don't want to live by any rules. I don't want to have any boundaries. I don't want to have any limits, any regulations. This is the warped concept of the European mind that now our people are emulating and are trying to set new standards, to trying to create these new rules. No, I'm a woman. That's a perfectly fine label for me. I'm a mother. I'm a queen. I'm a goddess. I am a black woman. That comes with laws. That comes with rules and regulations. That comes with boundaries and limits. I'm a woman, so I know my place in this society, what I can and what I cannot do. I am a mother. So the minute that my body becomes pregnant, when I'm pregnant with a child, my whole entire DNA and anatomy starts to transform in order for me to give life to this child. These are rules and regulations that have been set down by the Creator. Raven-Symoné, you are bound by those rules and regulations. And I feel sorry for you not wanting to identify with Africa and not wanting to identify with being a black woman, because there's nothing greater in the force of the universe than melanin, the God particle that you can be in the worst of situations, not have food, water, or anything, and you go out into the sun and the Creator will kiss you and bless you and recharge you to be able to navigate this savage system that we've been aligned with. So, wanting to disconnect yourself from that when it is that essence, it's that God particle, that's made you successful in your career in the first place. Have you lost your mind? Do you not understand? If you connect yourself back to Louisiana, you haven't traced your roots and found out where the slaves from Louisiana actually were originally from, the rich heritage and culture that the people in Louisiana created out of nothing, from scratch, and then taking the genetic remembrance or the DNA culture that you take back from Africa, and before Africa, that you take back to the planet, and before that you take back to the universe. I feel sorry for you. Sitting there with purple and blue hair talking about being colorless. Then change your hair back to what it originally was.
Right. You want to be that damn colorless?
Go back to what you are originally and be a blank slate. But stop trying to make yourself into something else and then turning around and saying, I am nothing. I just am. Well, yeah, you are, but if you don't have a concept of who you are spiritually, and as fans of us. They don't want to be black. They don't want to be African. But the minute these devils come down on you, you're going to expect for your people to come and have your back. We should start turning our backs on these people.
Yep.
And let them feel what it really feels like to be that little fish swimming in a tank full of sharks.
You know,
I just wanted to give you a quote from John Henry Clark. Everything that touches your life must be an instrument of your liberation, or it must be discarded.
Say that again, brother.
Everything that touches your life must be an instrument of your liberation, or it must be discarded.
Interesting. Now, I noticed the day after this was said, the majority of people that, I'm reading stuff online, going through, my Facebook feed and just looking at social media, I noticed a lot of people that were supportive of her comments were those that we call Moorish Americans. They sort of was relating to her the fact that she's saying she doesn't know if she comes from Africa. This is a term, basically they're saying that this African-American term was a term that was given to us. Now, I'm sure the context she said this is completely different from what they're trying to say. But somehow they're meshing this together, saying that they could relate to her saying, I don't know nothing about Africa. All I know is my roots are here. Because if you go into the Moorish, you study Moorish history, they're saying that we are indigenous to America and that the slave trade did not happen to the extent in which they said it happened, that the majority of black people were already here and that we can't trace our roots back to Africa. Do you see any validity in this? And do you see how maybe it could relate to what she's saying and give some type of validity into what she's saying? Because she's saying, my family's from Louisiana. I don't know about Africa, but I do know I'm from here. Do you see any connection, any validity with the Moors, what the Moors are saying and what Raven-Symone is saying?
What? You want me to?
No, go on, Zaza.
I was just going to say, that answer is twofold because Moorish Americans are negligent in not embracing and accepting Africa. I don't understand this concept of, how many people were here versus how many people came. We are indigenous to the planet.
Right.
If you look at a map, all of the different land masses at one time were connected. We can't see past maybe 100,000 years. In theory, we say, hundreds of thousands of years, but really, historically, we can't see past 100,000 years. There's been skeletons and skulls that have been found in this country that date back to 300 to 500 millions of years ago. So there is validity in that. There's black Native American people and black people from here who only identify with this landmass. Yes, it's ours. All of it's ours. So you don't have to necessarily identify yourself with the landmass. Identify yourself with the Creator.
Right.
But versus what Raven-Symone is saying is two entirely different things.
Okay.
She's not because she feels like she's indigenous to this land. She's completely disassociating herself with her people by saying colorless, by saying tracing herself back to just Louisiana. She knows that she has roots in Africa. She doesn't know exactly where it is, but she totally disassociated herself with her people. Started talking about identifying with Indians and with Asian people and with all different ethnicities and races and cultures. So there is validity in us being indigenous to America. We are indigenous to this land. We're also indigenous to Africa. We're indigenous to the entire planet. So, we have to contextualize this. Now, her being from Louisiana, does she understand the full context of the history of how Louisiana came to be? Does she know about the Louisiana Purchase? Does she know about Toussaint in Haiti and them defeating the French and Napoleon Bonaparte having to sell Louisiana in order to the United States or to America in order for him to be able to revitalize his army? Don't just say, I'm from Louisiana, because you can trace your family roots. Understand the full contextualization, your connection to Haiti, your connection to our people in Haiti, your connection to our people in Africa. That's the problem with what she's saying.
Brother Rich and Zaza, Louisiana is just not in and of itself. There's a history of Louisiana that you just dropped on us that I don't think not only Raven-Symone, but most people don't know. So for you to come out of that rich history, to only call yourself a colorless gay American, that is critical, because even with what the Moorish science brothers are saying, when you say the majority of black people were here where? And then what landmass was this connected to? And then how long ago? So where is here? And then how did we get here? Where did we come from? I'm sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, and no, the majority of blacks weren't here. I mean, what was the population in Africa, at the time? We have to contextualize this. Our people were everywhere, but the majority of us were not here.
Right.
That's not true.
And then where did we come from before we got here, Brother Rich? So this is a case of studying history, and not history only written by our oppressor. We have to go back, and this is what Zaza says all the time. It's beautiful to have a library full of books.
Yeah.
But is that the real lesson, Brother Rich, or is it that the oral tradition was taken from us, so those stories and those lessons passed on from father to son and from mother to daughter was lost? And the cracker kept meticulous records. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? So to say that, find the ships and show us the ships that did this and show, come on, you know they had to cover their tracks, Brother Rich. Come on, man.
Right.
Who the hell
because they had
wipe the goddamn gun off.
And because they had investors, so they had people. Everybody was investing in slaves, from the smallest to the biggest. They were all investing, so they did keep detailed records. Not to say that everything was accounted for, but I think that this whole idea of there weren't as many slaves as they claim it to be. If there was 10 slaves, that was too much. Why would we try to minimize that? More of our people went to South America than anywhere. Yes. Where are the Moorish Americans speaking about our brothers and sisters the Afro-Brazilian and the South American brothers and sisters who are there? We know they came from Africa. We can prove they came from Africa. When do you speak to and for them?
Right. So Brother Rick, when she said she traced her roots back to Louisiana, when she got there, did she find colorless gay Americans? She knows she's from some tribe in Africa. Did she ever stop to connect? Since she's doing all this goddamn connecting, did she stop to connect with that? Or was she trying to look for colorless gay stuff in Africa and didn't find it, so she cut the umbilical cord and only wanted to deal with Louisiana? Come on, Brother Rich. Scared to death Negroes. Coonism. That's what we're dealing with, man.
I want to touch on this concept of being biracial. I want to ask y'all, suppose I had a white mother and a black father. Mm-hmm. Is there anything wrong with me calling myself biracial? Now, the reason why I ask that is because for years you listen to people who have had a white parent, one white parent, one black parent. They always complain about they have a unique experience, one in which they're not accepted by whites nor blacks. The whites say, "Get out of here, you nigga." Then the blacks, they get some flack from the blacks. Hey, whatever. They're not accepting of them as well. So they feel as though, neither one of y'all accept me. So I must be different from both of y'all based on my experience. Is there anything wrong with that term? A person says, "Hey, I'm biracial. My mother's white. My father's black."
Zaza, you want to deal with that, or you want me to?
We definitely both need to deal with that. Because, first of all, Raven-Symone isn't biracial, which is what's so funny about all of this. Both of her parents are black, but this is a personal struggle for me because I am mixed. My mother is white. My father is a very dark-skinned black man. That concept, what you just talked about, has been my reality my whole entire life. I didn't have any connection with my mother's side of her family. They were very against her having a child with a black man. They never accepted me from the beginning. So that whole side of my support system in my family was taken away from me when I was born. So I never had the option of the black versus white. I was always clear on, you know, who my family was and what my identity was. At the same time, in my own family, I've experienced extreme amounts of prejudice and oppression as a child growing up in a very dark-skinned family, not understanding what good hair was, not understanding dark skin versus light skin. I had self-images coming up because black, dark skin was always the standard of beauty for me. So to me, light skin was never the standard of beauty. My hair was never the standard of beauty for me. I don't care what white America tried to impose on me or on all of us. Black was always the standard of beauty for me. But I went through hell in my own family because of the way that I look, and still to this day, blog sites, on our videos, on your videos, comments, people disrespecting me, people dogging me and talking about me because of the way that I look, because of my skin tone. I didn't choose my parents. None of us chose our parents. And for me, I had to rise above the emotion of my own personal history and my own personal situation to understand the concept of racism, white supremacy. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers, was the real true aha moment for me, where I had to understand I don't choose a side. It's already been chosen for me. Genetics chose for me. Okay. There's a dominant and a recessive gene. The dominant gene chose for me. My father's seed chose for me. So when I understood that concept, the science of it, and then I looked at the sociology of it and the psychology of it, going back into the history books and seeing the laws on miscegenation, seeing the laws on mulattoes being written into the Constitution, blacks and mulattoes. It wasn't just blacks and separate laws for mulattoes. It was blacks and mulattoes. So I caution and question and implore anyone who identifies themselves as a biracial person, go back into the history and the law books and read about where the first biracial people actually came from in this country. Our mothers were raped, which created a different hue and a different skin tone. That's where the biracial identity started from. So if you don't want to identify yourself as an African, if you don't want to identify yourself as a black man or a woman, then go back to the roots of what it means to be a biracial person in this country. Then go back and research the laws that were written strictly on behalf of mulattoes. They were exactly the same laws that were written on behalf of blacks in this country. This is a real serious problem that we have, not only how we treat mixed people as blacks, as Africans, but how mixed people identify themselves, never being able to fit in anywhere, so they think that they can self-identify, being completely oblivious of how the world is going to see you. The brother, Cody Ingham, had a white mother. Father was nowhere in his life. He was lynched in Athens, Texas, in front of his white girlfriend's house because he was dating a white girlfriend. These devils don't see biracial. They only see the black in you. Elijah Muhammad said if you have one, is it 1/32nd, Kavon? Or
1/16, I think he said.
1/6 drop of black blood in your body, you are a black person. And you can still reproduce black blood. So my goal in my own personal story is to graft that white blood out of me not only on a physical level, but on a spiritual and an emotional level, because I understand the bigger picture. I understand the war that's going on, and I'm clear that I'm on the side of God, the creator, the originator, who wrote my story, who gave me mixed blood in order for me to see both sides of the equation, for me to see the best in us, but for me to also see the worst in us, how we tear each other down. You can't deny me because my mother was white. I'm not having that. You have to deal with me because my father was a victim of racism, white supremacy, and he ended up getting with the most chocolate woman. Sister looked like she's straight out of the Sudan after he had me, and I have very dark-skinned brothers. But the contextualization of why I had to be who I am to understand the sickness that lies in us. We say we're the mother and fathers of civilization. We gave birth to Europeans, but we want to deny our own blood. This is the cross that I've been given to carry, and I've never actually told this story in public because it's something that I deal with in my book, but because you asked the question and because it is extremely important for the brothers and sisters who are listening, I read those messages online, so-called Pan-Africanists. I've heard some brothers who think that they are leaders in our community talk about mixed people. And here I am on the front line fighting for our people, and you won't accept brothers and sisters because they have white mothers or fathers. If you don't identify with black, then I'm not going to identify with you. But that goes for the black brothers and sisters that's in Africa right now buying bleaching cream that don't want to look black. That goes for the Clarence Thomases and the Oprah Winfreys and all the beautiful dark-skinned brothers and sisters who will do anything to not identify with their culture and with their history and with their race. This is not about skin tone. This is not about hair. It's about us coming together as a people and understanding the pain and the depth of the history that we've been through in this country and how we got to where we are, and then fixing and healing those wounds. My son in the summertime can get dark as any black-skinned brother can get. What do I tell him when people online are talking about me and talking about my skin tone and the fact that I have a white mother? How do I help him to contextualize that? We need to be in the business of healing ourselves and healing our people because we're so busy tearing each other down that it's completely keeping us off track with the real enemy and the real issues that we need to face. And I expect for the blogs and everybody to blow up because I just said, but it's cool. I'm ready for that. I was built for this.
All right. Well, thank you for being transparent and open with us. Brother Rich, real quick, I'd like to say it says in the scripture that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair and took them to be wives. We have pictures of Moors laying around in harems with white women and other people. So this was going on for a minute. Am I right or wrong, Brother Rich?
Right.
Second of all, we didn't choose to come over here and be raped, Brother Rich. We didn't choose this. Third of all, I want to take a deep breath and pause and let everybody that's listening to this raise your goddamn hand if you're a pure African stock. I'll wait. No, I'll wait, Brother Rich, because I hear these people talking. They're talking with no pictures up. They talking and won't even identify themselves. I'm waiting for the pure African stock, Brother Rich. If we know the history, here we go back to history, Zaza. When these crackers came into Africa, raping and pillaging and stealing, men, women, and children, left nothing and no one untouched. I want the person in the audience listening to this to raise your hand if you're pure African stock. The people in Africa right now, if you took your black self back there, Brother Rich, they wouldn't accept you. You're too damn light.
Definitely.
I'm too light. I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So these Negroes in America need to stop the bullshit, man, for real. All of us are too goddamn light. In that case, because all of us have been touched. This is why Elijah Muhammad called him the colored man, Brother Rich. Not because if you slap his ass, he might turn red or white. Blue, you choke him. The fact that everything he touches, he colors. We are a product of that rape, man. We are a product of that. We are a product of the sons of God seeing the daughters of men that they were fair and took them to be wives. We're a product of that. And Zaza hit on a very critical point. The whole idea of the black blood. Elijah Muhammad said we're direct descendants from Allah himself, or God himself. And we need to look at that. We're in a very unique situation in America, having been kidnapped and brought over here and held in captivity. I show a picture in my presentation about brothers in the bottom of the slave ships chained up, bragging about how fly your fucking chains are, Brother Rich. Mm-hmm. So you bragging about how you was raped, how your mama and grandmother's mother was raped? By which French, English cracker done raped her? Stop that, Brother Rich. All of us have been touched and colored by this enemy. So whether Zaza has fine, straighter hair or lighter skin, whatever, Brother Rich, it's in I go to my family reunion and some other people's family reunions I've been to. I see all kind of damn people. I ain't asking no questions. I'm getting me some potato salad and some collard greens and some other stuff. I'm not asking no questions because it's there in your family, Brother Rich, and it's in mine. What I do, Brother Rich, is go home and check out Ivan Van Sertima's book, study Runoko Rashidi, go into Amos Wilson's work, go into the historians' work, and look at what happened to our people. Walter Williams' work, Ashwa Kwesi, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark's work, and see what happened to our people. That we went from black to brown to yellow to white, walking around with these different complexions. So let me clear something up, Zaza and Brother Rich. First of all, we were all black and brown before we met any white people. Let's straighten that up first. I'm going to say that again. Zaza, your complexion already existed before we met white people.
Yes.
So, Brother Rich, we need to dive into the history books, call up brothers like Dr. Ben and Ashwa Kwesi, and ask them, can we dive into their work so we can show people? Sometimes me and Zaza be sitting back studying, pulling up pictures to put in the presentations, and we see people lighter than Zaza on the walls of the pyramids and other places. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
That's being depicted. We was like, oh, wow, okay. Some sisters with wigs, some sisters with curly hair, straight hair, different complexions. And I'm like, wait a minute. So all of this stuff existed already. Wow, this is kind of deep. But they won't accept Zaza. This is critical. So I think it has a lot to do, Brother Rich, with accepting the history that was given through us through the lens and through the hands and through the eyes of those black people that was brave enough to tell it. Thank you.
I have one more. I was just about up, but I do have one more question I definitely want to ask, and that is, when you guys were just in New York, and you did a lecture in Harlem. The brother Irritated Genie was there, and you were talking about the sex assault on our children, and there's certain phrases that come up when you start to discuss topics such as what we're discussing today. An example will be that lecture that you guys participate in. Mainstream America would say the term they come up with to try to counter what you're saying, the message you're delivering is, you guys are homophobic. If you guys had said anything about any Jew that day, and we talked about this before, they have a term for that. That makes you feel guilty about what you're saying. Not you, but some people, that make a person feel guilty. They'll say you're anti-Semitic. So I've noticed, I'm observing, and I noticed that, a lot of times, things that brothers say now, they would have said 15, 20 years ago, but now before they say it, I notice brothers say, I ain't trying to be homophobic or nothing, or I ain't trying to be anti-Semitic or nothing. I know you're not trying to be, but you don't even have to say that. They don't make you feel guilty, so you feel the need to say that before your statement. So, back to what we're talking about today. And what basically what we've been talking about, like I said, generally the whole year, you generally talk a lot about white supremacy. The term they will have for somebody like a Francis Quest Wilson or somebody like a Zaza Ali or Professor Griff is, you guys are race baiters. You take an ordinary event like Ebola and you turn it into a race war where these weapons are being formed for a specific race. You take any particular situation and you turn it into something racial. What do you, because I asked you before about the term anti-Semitic, but I have to ask you about this because, you know, these terms make a lot of people feel guilty, and it makes them think about what they're about to say. It's some deep game they're running on us, deep game. So what do you think about this? You Zaza Ali, Professor Griff, what do you think about being labeled a race baiter? And what does that term, you know, just tell me a little bit about the term. Is it, you know, I'm sure it's bullshit, but I want to hear your perspective on it.
Well, my thing is there's only the human race. And that particular term, races, or a race, only came up when the Caucasian had to clearly define him and his so-called superior race. We didn't have an issue with race. We've never dealt with race. We just you know, were. We didn't have to deal with that concept. The whole idea of being anti-Semite or anti-Semite or anti-Semitic, first of all, it's a crock of bullshit. These Negroes don't even know what the term means. I defined it very clearly in my book, Analytics. In order for me, Professor Griff, a black man, to be anti-Semitic or an anti-Semite, first of all, the Semitic people were black, dark-skinned people and spoke Semitic languages.
Right.
Of course, we know and understand that these Ashkenazi Jews and the rest of these white European Jews coming into our land stole our history, and they're wearing our holy robes. So then they now have written themselves in as the Semites, as the Semitic people. So if you're talking about your anti-Semite, Professor Griff being accused of being an anti-Semite would have to actually be anti-black or anti-self. Because this particular term does not describe them. Now, if you say I was an anti-devil, then that would be a lot more truthful. But these terms don't fit them because they're wearing someone else's robes. And these are ours. We are the Semitic people. We spoke the Semitic languages. We were the ones that originally existed in this quote-unquote Semitic landmass.
That's
that
right.
they now control. So these terms, brother, that you're absolutely correct. It's psychological warfare being waged on our people, having to apologize when you think you might be saying something that might offend Jewish people. We didn't even get the question of Jew and Jewish straight yet. Right. I covered that in my book. But I noticed something, Brother Rich. When I clearly define what these terms are and who are the original people, I never heard back from the Jews. I never heard back from these handkerchief-head, bootlicking-ass niggas. I never heard from the nigresses. I never heard back from these smart Alex that like to run their mouth when the camera's on them. But I don't hear from them when the cameras fade away and the lights on the stage go down, Brother Rich. I put it in my book. I haven't heard from these people. And, Brother Rich, guess what? It's still in the goddamn book. And I still haven't heard from them. So when we define these terms and be very clear on what these terms actually mean, they go right back to us as a people. And we cannot be anti-self, Brother Rich. And this is very, very real dynamic that we have to deal with. Once again, Brother Rich, as Zaza always say, we are playing checkers while they're playing chess. We're at a lecture with no goddamn white people in sight, no Jews in sight, but we apologizing.
Okay, brother. Okay, brother. Teach, brother. Okay.
That's it, man. Hello?
I think the phone is, Sister Zaza, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, her phone is, barely, you're breaking up.
Yeah, she's there.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was going to say, since Griff broke down anti-Semitic, we need to stop letting people push us into a corner dealing with this term homophobic, because you can look at it two ways. You either scared of gays or you're scared of men. Homo in the dictionary, the Greek original root word for that is man. So we're basically saying if you call someone homophobic that you fear man, or in the context that is used today, you fear homosexuals. No, we don't fear homosexuals, and we don't fear men. So when somebody addresses you with being homophobic, stop apologizing for that term and correct people when they use it so you can get them up off of you. We're not race baiters because we deal with the reality of what we're the existence of this country. The devils who killed Eric Garner are race baiters. The devil who Brown is a race baiter. George Zimmerman is a race baiter, and all of the devils who surrounded around him to protect him are race baiters. The devil who killed Oscar Grant on video for the world to see, and then the judge and the jury who turned around and released him are race baiters. There is a direct difference between being prejudiced and racism. So this idea that because we're having an interview and talking about the reality of black life, that is going to have any type of impact on white America versus the militias who are found all around this country, from Georgia to California to Texas to Detroit to New York, who are training and strategizing, who have websites that talk openly about killing black people. Those are race baiters. All we're doing is talking about the reality of what we're dealing with in this country, but we are in no way doing anything or prophesizing or discussing anything that's really going to have any detrimental impact on white people. The way that we're going to affect white people is by raising the consciousness and the mentality of our people. Because once we resurrect ourselves physically, spiritually, and emotionally, there won't even have to be a fight. God is going to take over automatically. But because we are so entranced with white America and so living in such a confined, bestial, savage state right now, we can't even deal with, the real race baiters. We have to deal with the problems in our own communities first. But no, we're not race baiters. We are truth tellers. That's what we are.
The greatest, right, exactly. And the greatest revolutionary act, Brother Rich, is loving ourselves. I love you. I love Zaza. But most of all, I love Griff. That's the most revolutionary act.
Right.
I'd like to thank Professor Griff, Sister Zaza, for coming on the show. This is Brother Rich, Underground Road, another amazing show. I'd like to give this opportunity for y'all to give your contact information so that people could reach y'all and anything you might have coming up so that people could know about it.
All right, you can reach us on Facebook at Enemy Minds Radio, and we do a radio show called Enemy Minds every Tuesday and Thursday at www.blogtalkradio.com/minds, MINDZ, matter, MATTER. That's every Tuesday and Thursday from 8 to 10. The call-in number is 347-633-9644. You can reach me, Professor Griff, on Facebook at ex-Minister Prof. Griff, and my phone number is 678-557-2919.
You can reach me on Facebook, Zaza Ali. Our Twitter handle is hashtag Enemy Minds Radio. What else? We're going to be at the Warriors Conference. Griff, you're going to be in Augusta, Georgia tomorrow, right? You want to plug
I'll be in Augusta,
quick?
Georgia tomorrow, right, at 1:30 to 3:30, talking about hip-hoponomics, breaking down hip-hop, breaking down the economics of hip-hop.
Okay. And then October 18th, we will be in Atlanta for the Warriors Conference. Myself, Griff, Irritated Genie, Dr. Baruti, and Sarah Sutton-Seti. We will all be in the building. That's 595 North. Right, Griff? Am I saying that right? I'm going
595 North, and it's 595 North Avenue. In Atlanta,
right,
Georgia.
yes.
Right.
Yes. And thank you, Brother Rich. We appreciate you as always. I've had a lot of people hitting me up like, hey, what's going on with Brother Rich? Y'all not doing the interviews anymore.
Right.
So we back on deck.
All right, Brother Rich.
All right, yo, this is Brother Rich, Underground Railroad. Check out the website, www.undergroundrailroadnet.com. Signing out, and we will see you guys next week. Peace.